Okay, let's get going. So as I say, hello, welcome to this session on how to streamline content creation workflows. Before we dive in, I'd first like to introduce who is joining you today. So I'm Becky, I'm head of campaigns here at Papirfly, and I'll be the host for our two presenters, Lara and Krista. Lara joins us from CI HUB as partner manager, and Krista is a senior solution specialist here at Papirfly. For those of you who aren't familiar with Papirfly, we provide a DAM, or digital asset management and content creation suite, and help thousands of brands scale content without sacrificing brand consistency. Essentially, marketers use Paperfly to centralize, organize, and access the right version of every brand asset. And what we want to highlight today is that many DAMs can operate in silos, and that can lead to incorrect versions of assets being used, duplicate versions of assets, and then vast amount of storage needed to store those assets. A significant time is then lost locating the correct assets. The list can go on and on, but they really don't have to operate in this way. Your DAM can connect seamlessly to your creative tools and your approval workflows. And what that means is that they then don't just store those assets, but they're actually activated directly within campaigns, creative outputs, and local adaptations. So today we're going to show you how Paperfly and CI HUB are working together to simplify content creation for global marketing teams. Lara will first be taking us through what the content lifecycle actually looks like today and the challenges that are being faced by global teams operating across complex tech stacks. She'll then go through how you can manage assets within your tech stack by enabling seamless access across all of your different solutions, and show what this looks like in practice with a few different tools like PowerPoint, Outlook, and Figma. We'll then hand over to Krista, and Krista can zoom in a bit more and showcase a graphic production workflow between the Adobe Creative Suite and the Paperfly DAM. This should really help to have a bit more of a tangible example of the complexity that can be involved in content creation and how it can be streamlined. Krista will show you how CI HUB facilitates this Adobe and Paperfly integration, and we'll use a live use case of one of our joint customers, Helly Hansen, for this. Obviously, Helly Hansen is a huge global brand, and we'll be showing you a really specific example of a creative workflow. But when you take into account the scale of their operations, you can really start to appreciate how these workflow efficiencies really start to stack up to make a big impact on resource capacity. So if you do have any questions throughout the session, you can pop them into the chat to the right of your screen. We will address them at the end. We have some time allocated for that. But to get started, I'll hand over to Lara. Thanks, Lara.
Yes, thank you so much, Becky. So before we dive into the details of today's session, I really just want to take a step back and look at what a streamlined content workflow typically looks like. So at its absolute core, it's the simple life cycle. You have brief and brief creation. Then you're going to go into the creation stages and make the assets. Then once you've got that asset, you're versioning, you're customizing, you're personalizing, you're creating renditions of those assets. You're then moving it into the approval lifecycle across your enterprise, your organization. And then you're finalizing it for its distribution and its usage by publishing it out to all of the different omni-channels that you're using these assets for. But as many of you know, in reality, this process, as much as it looks very linear here, is anything but simple. So assets typically live in different places. The teams that are accessing and consuming those assets are spread across multiple different tools across your organization, and things like approval cycles, localization workflows, finding the right version. It can really slow down everything across an organization when you're thinking about the scale at which you're trying to create these assets. And that's really where integrations and interoperability comes in, right? It becomes very, very critical to streamlining this content process. And this is where CI HUB really fits in to help to solve for some of these needs. So for those of you that aren't familiar with CI HUB, we are a connector that brings in your content systems, just like Paperfly and the DAM, directly into the tools that your teams are already using. So whether you have creatives that are in the Adobe Creative Cloud applications, whether you've got product teams in Figma or your marketing teams are in Adobe Express or a Canva application, or even if you have sales, marketing, and business users that are in Microsoft Office tools. CI Hub really acts as that bridge between your DAM and your design environment. So this means things like there's no more having to download and then re-upload assets in and out of the DAM system. Instead, what you're going to be seeing is that creatives can do things like searching for the assets, drag and dropping those assets directly into their application of choice, using the latest approved brand compliant assets, all without leaving that application, that creative application that they live and breathe in day-to-day work. So let's take a look at why this type of integration is super necessary in the first place. So we think about the content velocity demands that we have, and they're super complex, right? And they are just gaining more and more momentum as digital touchpoints become such a mass critical place of us consuming content across brands and on all kinds of different devices and surfaces and so on. So enterprises, they're really being asked to deliver more and more content, more and more formats of those contents across more channels, quicker and more efficiently. And when we think about assets themselves, I mean, this scales across everything from things like video assets, VR assets, AR assets, 3D assets, interactive assets, localized banners for marketing materials, pitch decks, email signatures, imagery, the list just goes on and on and on. And each one of these assets would have those multiple versions, multiple resolutions, different aspect ratios, different type of regulation considerations, all part of this supply chain. So we think about most organizations, they're really still managing this complexity within their own siloed department across an organization, right? This web that you see here, it's very typical that marketing will be working out of the DAM, and they're really only looking at finalized assets that live in that DAM. Whereas legal department, they're looking for final versions too, but they might be looking in SharePoint as their one source of truth for those assets. Well, then you've got the creative teams that are certainly looking at more of a work in progress production cycle on those assets, and they probably live in their creative suites within Adobe. And then you've got sales asking for these assets for, ad sales and pitch decks, and they're looking at PowerPoint to put those assets in, and they're scrambling through Slack and DM and Dropbox links. And then even product teams, right? They're probably in Figma for UX, UI design, a whole different system entirely. And what this means is you don't want to remove them from the applications that they're using. Like, these are built for purpose to be able to execute the work. But it means that the teams that are all trying to access those one source of truth assets to use within their applications, they're spending more time just trying to manage those assets. They're creating duplicate assets in the process, and that really isn't creating the value that they're trying to get out of their workflow. So this is where CI Hub is really positioned, right? We're connecting to Papirfly's DAM engine as an example here, turning it into a true enterprise-wide content access platform. So CI Hub, we sit in the middle here. We act as a universal access point to all of your content. So whether that content is in a PIM, in a DAM, in cloud storage, living locally, more than likely and more often, all of the above, or to some degree, all of the above, right? You're not switching between apps, you're not downloading, re-downloading, you're just having that fast, direct asset into the assets and all of their reference packaging of those assets from whatever application. So let's say that now all of a sudden there's no need to have to re-download an asset and have to then do your edits and then re-upload it back into a system. You can do it all through the panel. When you've done edits, you can sync those edits, and that automatically syncs back into the Papirfly DAM environment. If you have things that have been renamed and reversioned throughout its life cycle, that asset, Typically, that would make a broken file link. You can't see it anymore. It's not referenced anymore. Well, through the CI Hub connector, we're actually handling that ability to link those references, those reference materials back, and extending what would be considered a final asset repository DAM into really much more of an extensible work in progress asset management toolset. So things like relinking and referencing those broken URL links gives the creatives the ability to really be able to look across all of the assets, search for them, drag and drop the latest approved content, and work within, again, their application that they're in. And then just finally, a piece on this. So it is plug and play in terms of the connector. It's very simple to get up and get started with it. You double click to install it. You have your login. It's pretty much that simple. And then you connect it to the out of the box DAM of Papirfly. But that said, it's plug and play, but it also runs at very much an enterprise grade. So whether you're in marketing within your organization, or you're in the creative ops team, or you're in legal or sales, and you're doing sales enablement, for example, or product development, the enterprise level grade that CI Hub offers makes sure that no matter where you are, across which department, across which team you're in, you're pulling from the same source of truth every single time across the organization. So far, we've looked at how that CI Hub connector basically brings those assets directly into the everyday creative tools. Kind of spoke about where it sits within those applications like Adobe, Figma, and so on. But really what makes it powerful is how flexible and how extensible it is. So you can see here in the diagram, across all of these desktop applications, cloud applications, or even into third-party platforms and DAMs itself. It's extensible, but it's also, when we consider it, it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? It's going to be unique to the tools that you have in-house. And thanks to its headless architecture, the way that it's just run and installed, CI Hub can be embedded directly into those internal tools. And that includes if you have custom built platforms, proprietary systems. We're bringing more of a seamless brand access into any environment across any tools that you have. And that really means that that brand consistency doesn't just stop with the creative teams. It extends across all of your product systems, internal systems, communication tools, or just wherever else your organization creates content and uses it. So let's have a little look at some of the screens of what you would be presented with by using the CI Hub panel with Papirfly. So on the right-hand side of our PowerPoint presentation that you see in this slide, this is the panel on the right-hand side. It lives, again, within the PowerPoint application. So sales and corporate users, they can build or update their presentations with the plugin. They're just simply connected into, you see the connections, you've got one highlighted here, which is the Papirfly DAM, and they're simply searching, filtering, and drag and dropping the assets from the panel here directly into their PowerPoint. And the assets that are presented back are what lives within the DAM. So there's no more outdated decks that are going to be sent out or off-brand visuals, just fast, compliant, and impactful presentations that can be sent. The same goes for if you're in a Word document. So if we think about users that need to quickly access things like latest templates that they're building, disclaimers, branded elements when creating documents. Again, the panel sits directly within Word, and it ensures that consistent formatting and messaging across things like proposals or reports or client communications that are being built. Again, all pulling in from the DAM. And then it might be that you are in your email. So again, it goes across the enterprise at very much a corporate level. So let's say that you are looking to enable your employees to insert the latest brand approved visuals within their email, such as an email signature. You know, what's the logos and what should that text say within the signature directly? Again, all without leaving Outlook itself. They don't need access to the DAM. They're not trying to log in and do these type of workflows. They literally just need to have the assets at their fingertips. So this ensures from an Outlook standpoint that every communication is very professional that gets sent out, or consistent, or just on brand for the message. And then if we move a little bit more into what a product view might look like for somebody that's working in product, CI Hub is bringing a lot of brand governance into applications such as Figma. So within Figma, the panel here, we have it unpinned, so it's floating on top of the Figma application, but it lets teams pull, again, approved assets directly into UI and UX designs. So this keeps things like the collaborative workflows very streamlined and ensures that you've got that consistency across product. If that's going for web design, or if it's an in-app design that you're creating, all while reducing that need to leave the actual design environment. And then let's say that you actually, you're not a creative or an editor. You're a little bit more of a marketer, and you're doing real marketing comms. So this is an example with the panel in Adobe Express. We also have this released for Canva as well recently, which is very exciting. But in Adobe Express, for example, here, CI Hub is giving marketers and non-designers, so those non-creatives, that instant access to the approved templates that they have living in Express. They're able to pull in things like logos and the imageries directly from Papirfly, directly into their templates. And this is going to make it really easy for a marketer and a non-designer to create an on-brand content for things like a social media push that they're doing, or a specific campaign where they're sending out materials that they've built in Express, or even just for internal use where you don't really have the design expertise that are required. And then for the last two here, a little bit more from the creative side. So this is an example of what it looks like in Photoshop. So with the CI Hub integration with Photoshop and Papirfly, designers are able to, again, see that you're connected into the Papirfly DAM here. All of the navigation, the filtering, the permissioning, it always inherited from the Papirfly DAM, so you don't have to worry about access that you shouldn't be getting. But they can see the assets, search on them, use the metadata to find them, and then drag and drop those brand approved assets directly into any composition without leaving Photoshop application. Things like version control, live metadata is all embedded here as well. So they are, perfectly secure with the assets that they're using and the most up-to-date on-brand content for this Photoshop edit. And this is really great, like for creating that high impact visual editorial experience, again, without an editor ever having to go into the DAM. And then very finally from me, we look at InDesign, and the reason InDesign, when I've left it till last, is because Krista's about to go through a little bit more of a demo use case on this one, but just to tee him up here. So we look at it from an InDesign perspective. Designers are able to really reference those files across multiple different sources. So this could be, different assets that are local or within the DAM or both. And they have the same access to the brand approved assets where they would be drag and dropping them into different layouts, but even the ability to do things like relinking any of the files that have been previously renamed or maybe show up as missing because there's a broken link there. So they're able to see and use all of those. They can upload any of the new editorial versions that they're creating within this edit without ever leaving InDesign as well. So they do a new version, and then right there and then, as it's the final version that they've done, they're just syncing that, and that's re-uploading back into the DAM. And then this is streamlining that creative process, right? Because you've got the brand consistency, you're eliminating any of that file chasing to try and find the files. And you're able to do this all again from your InDesign application. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Krista, who's going to walk us through a little bit more of a live example of how this works and what this looks like.
Okay, thank you, Lara, for this. And now it's time for some live action. And we are going to present this workflow for graphic production. And why graphic production? Well, actually, most of the other connectors into different applications is mainly about finding the file, the PDF, the JPEG or whatever, placing it into the application like PowerPoint. And then the image lives inside that application and is carried in the document. So just find it, put it there. But in graphic production, it's different. The main composition design tool is InDesign, and what it does is it's looking into a position. It just links to files on the disk. So if it's not so smart in a way, it looks where it got the image from, and if the image is not there or the file is not there, it just gives you a question mark and say, hey, I can't find it. And then you have to relink and try to find it and so on. Anyway, so that's what makes it more complicated. That's one of the reasons. And also it's the synergy of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. 3 design applications that should work together. So let's move on with next slide. Yeah, so some people think that just by having a DAM, a media bank in the cloud that agencies can access and you can access it, that will solve everything automatically. Well, the answer is that if you start from scratch here and say, okay, from now on, we upload all our assets, even the InDesign files we can upload, and then we work from there, then it will work very easily and correctly and being available everywhere. But, and this is the big but, how on earth do we handle and manage everything we've done so far, which is always stationed and positioned in folder structures that can look totally different for totally different clients and production environments. So that's usually deemed impossible. Okay, and they say, okay, from now on we do it in the cloud, but the old stuff must be there. But next slide, please. I'll show you something. If we could have a smart translator that could understand what files are linked into this InDesign document from the local disks and compare them to what's available in the DAM, in the cloud. If such a thing would exist, then we would have solved even old documents, and that we have now in CI HUB. They have managed to do this really, really good, and I will show you. So next slide. So let me share my screen. We have it there, and we go for entire screen. Yes. So I will now talk about the ideal scenario where we have everything in the cloud already. And usually everything is on a hard drives. And here you see, like I can go in here and I have campaigns on my hard drive, and you go around and you look for the folder and you have the links, and then you have to move out. It's a mess of folders to look for things like this. This is another structure. We'll look more into this soon. And here we have InDesign files and links and everything. I mean, this is not the ideal world. This is how it looks today. To help me now, I will not need a file system. I will have a DAM. And the DAM here this is the front end of the DAM where we offer people to easily access stuff and so on, but we have a back-end DAM too inside the system, which is much more powerful. And just to show you how to add things here, I have a file laying here, and I just put it into the DAM, drag it in there. I get the possibility to add metadata, and the only thing I do today is I will add it to a campaign. I will put it into outdoors autumn and maybe another one. So I can have one image in many campaigns in many categories without having it stored in a folder, just by metadata here. So no folders, and I complete this upload. So here's the dam with all my files. Let's move over to InDesign. So if I now want to start with a document, all I need to do is to activate and open my interface to look into the media bank. And here, this is how CI HUB, the connector, looks in all application it works in. In this case, I have it connected to one client. I can have it connected to like a stock photo as well, or several stock photos in the same interface. And now it's so nice that you have all these filtering possibilities. Of course, we have free search up here. You can text search whatever you want. But look down here. To begin with, you can sort of say, show me only images, one click, but also you can go into the categories here, and let's see if we look for outdoors. Here's a campaign, okay? But I see there's a lot of files here. I only want to look at InDesign files, so I can select that from here too and filter. And I can also, of course, have a sort order, the latest created, and you get something new. Okay. I know that a colleague of mine has started to work on the structure of a document. Here I have one. And to open it, I just click on it like this. Here I have a document and the structure is here. And now I want to find something to put in here. And then I'm just now looking at InDesign files. And I want to look at all the files. And let's say, okay, this is the one really I'm looking for. So I take it like that. And there it is. I can take away, by W, so I don't see the help lines. And now I want to fill in these three too. So I look for files. I want this one, I want this one, and that one. And we just go in and click there, there, and there. And that's quite nice, yes. So this is how easy you can get files, do it like that. If we now look at the InDesign files again, I want to bring up one more. We can take that one. So here's another one. And just to see the repetition, I can bring in something here, or maybe that one. Yeah, and I want to work with this. So, and again, to be kind to Helly Hansen for publishing, right, and everything. These images are not Helly Hansen, so it's free to use images in this case. So don't blame Helly for this. But the logo and everything is Helly Hansen, and this is the exact way they work. Okay, what else can you do? Well, I go back to this first roll up here. I can now click on this one, and I can say edit this because I want to change a little here. Edit with Photoshop. So now here we have the image, and let's do something with the image. I go in and do an adjustment with the curves, maybe like that. I will do something little like this, and maybe I should go and get something quickly here with the color so it really looks a little off somehow. Yes, this for some reason, that's what we are looking for, this effect. Okay, save. So I am now in Photoshop, and I go into CI HUB from Photoshop. And this image is super easy to find because the connector is smart and understand which image I have on my screen. So it gives you a search possibility here. Click. And there it is. And I want to update this rather dramatic change. So I just click on the update file. It says use the active document. Yeah, looking to north. That's the one. And okay, I must do a little save like this. And then I do okay. So now in a short while, this one will be updated when I search for it. It'll take a few seconds, but already now when I switch back to InDesign, you will see the update is here in place. And I'm super happy with this, rather anyway. So I will add this to my DAM, to my media bank, as a new version of the InDesign file. So with this way, you get version control too here. So what I do is, again, it understands which documents you have. So I search for it here. There it is. The first one was very raw, and now I just add with the active InDesign document that I do a quick save with and do the update. So this will also take a few seconds to update this. And this was really quick, so that was better than a few seconds. Okay, so here you see I can work in between the applications and do this kind of work, and it's seamless in wherever I am. If I go to, I have Illustrator here too, you see the same connector, and maybe I want something, I want AI files here. Well, then I have my AI files here, and I can open them. You can also, if I take this, I'll take this file. What shall I take? I will go to, actually, I will go to, here we are. I shall clean this up. Looking north, I want my image here. This one. I click it. I'm still in InDesign, but you see, I can look into the metadata here. And for this example, you see, I can take the text here and drag it and drop it here. So you see, you can drag and drop text from the DAM into the system. And then you know, if you already had it set like this, you could drag the text and automatically get it formatted for you like this. You see now it's formatted properly. So how do we handle the local already fixed stuff here? Here I have InDesign files. If I can open that one, and I will open that one, 2 files. Look here, both have local links to a lot of files. Some are called Vardö here, Vardö. And they are used in both of these documents, and they have been living inside zip files. So you have so many duplicates and stuff. So let's open these two. They are all based on the local hard drive. And I will close that a little. Or we can have this one and this one. Yeah, these two. Good. So if we look at this thing here, these are the links to the files I just showed you. They are on my drive. This says Christer here, that's my name, and it's the server, and it's Helly Hansen, and here is the assets that are placed in this document. Okay, so it's really local. How do I get this into the cloud? Well, what you can do is you can ask the system to check the DAM if the images already exist in the DAM, in the media bank. So first, you can have a look here, and you see this still looks at the local system. And if I now go up here, CI HUB has its own system for links. But before I go there, I shall break the links rather brutally. So I go into my disk, and here are the links. I know it's these 2 folders. I just throw them away, gone. Okay, we look at the links, they are gone. This means we cannot output a high resolution file from this document at the moment. If we go to CI HUB, we click the links, and herein you can do a recheck. Now it looks inside the DAM and see, does any of these files exist? So here you see, I hope it works now. So here, now you see, we have actually got the files here, and I can relink them with a click and say like that. This means we are now looking into the dam with the files. And if I look on this one, it will actually say that we are looking into the Papirfly dam here. So we are not depending on the local files anymore. I can now print this one straight ahead. And in the background, this has happened. We have a temporary cache file. We have a temporary folder, I should say, that in the connector brings down all the assets. And this one you can empty at any time and just reconnect with the dam. The only reason for this cache file that you can have very easily accessible is so that you can do the high resolution output to PDFs, for example. This one is broken. And again, I go into CI HUB, I click the link tool, and you see it tells me what you can do. Yeah, I want to have it, and I check everything, please. And then you will have this reconnection to everything. So you do the reconnect up here. Everything is in the dam. I reconnect here, relink, and notice I can even take low resolution here if I have a huge catalog. But let's take the originals. And when they are green here, I know I have them locally available, but I can remove them at any time and just with one click reconnect to the dam. So everything is now ready to stay in the dam permanently, and you can work as I've done now, and as I did in the beginning, fully from the dam.
Thank you so much, Krista. Yeah, I'm going to hand back over to Lara now, and Lara can just take us through a little bit more around the challenges that Helly Hansen was facing and how CI Hub has really helped them. So yeah, fingers crossed we can see just a little bit more, understand the scale. You can see here, Rebecca provided us a quote. So thank you, Rebecca, just to really kind of quantify the impact. But yeah, I'll hand back over to Lara and she can take you through what we've done with Helly Hansen a little bit more.
Sounds great. Thanks, Becky. So what you've just seen was, oh, I think we have a little lag there. What we've just seen is pretty much Krista was taking you through the very much a detailed, focused view of what it looks like for that designer in InDesign and in Photoshop doing a creative workflow, right? And they were going from InDesign in and out of their edit bay into the Photoshop and back and forth. But when we want to zoom out and scale this out a little bit, right? This isn't just one designer doing a one-to-one workflow. When we zoom out and we look at the full impact of what the integration offers for Helly Hansen, for example, they have over 4,500 products. It's a lot of products, clothing, items, etc. that they have to create assets for. And then they do operations in approximately over 26 countries and counting. And they do 4 different seasonal campaign pushes each year. And with each of those 4 seasons, it's about 100 different campaigns that get sent out across the year annually. So when you think about generating thousands of assets, countless different versions for the 26 different countries and localization that they have, all of the different departments that are responsible for touching and creating these assets, these designs, and getting them from the brief creation all the way through to the distribution for all of their different resellers. That sheer volume alone and the speed that's required really was something that they were struggling with, and it created some challenges for them prior to the integration and having Papirfly help support their workflow. So prior to it, they had scattered assets. Brand consistency was very, very hard to control. Rolling out the campaigns, they just typically got very delayed. And then we started to see, well, how can we break down this complexity? And with something as simple as the connector to start to chip away at that creative workflow to offer some efficiency and some scale to streamline that workflow between InDesign and Photoshop. So from a solution standpoint, by adopting Papirfly, they're all in one platform. They're featuring things like the brand guidelines that they're using within the DAM platform itself. They've got templated content, analytics on how well some of the content's performing, and then integrating the CI Hub for in-app access, like you've just seen within the Creative Suites. They've really created what they consider to be a single hub, or that one source of truth, for all of assets and all of their guidelines and brand guidelines that they are now compliant and using. So the DAM gives very much the structured metadata, things like the fast search, secure global access, and then all of this can be searched and retrieved all from the CI Hub panel. It's kind of what you saw in the demo there. While templates let local teams that they have in the 26 different countries very much build that on-brand material while localizing it and making it personal for each of the different regions. So from the CI Hub standpoint, creatives, again, accessing very much approved assets directly within Adobe, also within Figma and other applications, without having to do context switching between applications or any sort of manual uploads or anything like that. So from an impact standpoint, 600 plus global brands, including Helly Hansen, use Papirfly to unify their brand efforts, right? So this is proven in the market. 51% of marketing time wasted on things like recreating existing assets has been eliminated. We've seen things like reduced time to market. So for things like seasonal campaigns, they've got templated workflows that they now set for spring, summer, winter, autumn. So local teams can launch in a matter of minutes across these campaigns. And then having that consistent brand experience across the 26 markets, across all of the marketing teams for those 26 markets, all the different stores and the resellers. And they're also empowering their employees as well. And I think this is quite a big one. So if you think about the photographers to the store staff, everyone that needs access with certain permission rights can access and use approved materials. So this, again, is helping them to just drive that faster execution and have fewer errors.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lara. Apologies, I'm definitely having some technical difficulties. But yeah, we actually had one. I'm conscious we're out of time, but I'm conscious Steve has just asked one here. I think it was Krista whilst you were going through and just kind of showcasing how we can get back from InDesign into the DAM. Just asking, are the asset IDs linked into the InDesign document or via the file names?
Once they're connected to the DAM, it's always the ID we are looking for. So first you do the connection, then we don't know where it lives, so we do the file name matching because there's no ID. Then we connect the ID, and then the ID lives with the asset.
Amazing. Hopefully that has answered your question, Steve. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, as I say, we are at time. So thank you for everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Lara and Krista, for that amazing contribution, just walking us through that. For everyone else, thank you, for just diving into this. We'll send up a follow-up email with some key takeaways of the session, a recording, and the chance to book a custom walkthrough. So if anybody does want to know a bit more how CI Hub and Papirfly can help you, please do give us a shout. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.